Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies, where we explore all things cinema. It is an honor to welcome back Alicia Malone to my show, who is a host on Turner Classic Movies and an authority on classic, independent, and foreign films. Malone began her television career in her native Australia, working behind the scenes. Her expertise in film led to her transition as a host, interviewer, and film critic for television, radio, print, and online. She lives off the coast of Maine where she often draws inspiration for her work. And today we're talking about a book that is coming out in October, her first novel, Murder at the Movies, a movie palace mystery. Alicia, welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. And this is actually my first time talking about the book. So
Oh, is
I'm
it?
excited to talk about
Oh,
it.
great. Yeah, well, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's quite the page turner,
Oh,
uh,
good.
and I never quite knew where it was going to go, which I imagine was the point.
Yeah, that's the plan. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, really good book. I wanted to ask, can you just tell us, without giving too much away of the plot, can you just tell us a little bit about what it's about?
Yeah, sure. This is the first entry in a cozy mystery series. So it'll feature the same amateur sleuth throughout. And that amateur sleuth, her name is Audrey Sullivan. She's American. She grew up in LA. And after her grandma dies, she moves to a small fictional island in Maine called Pine Island to take over her grandma's movie theater called the Starlight Movie Palace. But on opening night, dun dun dun, there's a dead body in the projection booth. So she has to get involved to figure out the murder and get out there in the community in order to save her theater before it's too late.
And you've spent so much of your career studying and writing about film. What made you want to tell a fictional story?
Yeah, I've long wanted to write fiction, and I've always been a little bit scared to start. I've done a lot of short stories by myself in my own time. I've done a lot of writing classes about fiction, and I kept sort of putting it off, starting a book and never finishing it. But I made the decision that, this is something I really want to try. It's kind of now or never. So after I wrote TCM Imports, my last nonfiction book, I decided that I was just going to put everything away and start to write this cozy mystery series. And it just managed to coincide. I was planning on just doing it myself, and it managed to coincide with the fact that TCM was looking to expand into releasing fiction. And the editor of all the TCM books was looking for cozy mysteries. So it was quite a fortuitous meeting I had with her where she said, What are you working on now? And I said, Well, I've always wanted to write fiction, so I'm going to try a cozy mystery. And she was like, That's exactly what we're looking for. So send me your synopsis and your first chapter, and we'll go from there. So that really lit the fire under me and forced me to actually get out there and write. And I have to say, I had so much fun writing it. It was a real joy.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Was it difficult to transition from writing about film to writing a novel? Was that a hard move?
Yeah, it's a completely different process. I say that with nonfiction, the joy in writing nonfiction is looking at all the research you have and seeing a through line, a story that you want to tell that brings all those pieces together. And fiction, it's just a blank page. You're coming up with ideas out of nowhere. I was daunted by that fact, but what I decided to do was just not to think too much about the outcome, not think like I have to write a whole book. Instead, like Anne Lamott's book, Bird by Bird, she says it's a great writing book. Break it down by chapter. So I was just thinking about, okay, this scene, this chapter, little bits at a time, and I try not to judge myself too much as I was writing, knowing that it would go through a lot of rewrites. So try to write just a terrible first draft, get all your thoughts out there. And that really worked, and that sort of opened up my mind and freed myself in order to be able to write.
Did the story change significantly from your original idea to the finished novel?
Yeah, I mean, they say that people are either plotters or pantsers when it comes to writing fiction. That means you're either plotting everything out first and then filling in the gaps, or you're just flying by the seat of your pants through it without any plan. And I thought I would be more of a plotter, but I ended up being a mixture of the two. So I came up with the idea, the general idea for the murder, who was going to get killed, the suspects, the town, the basic characters. and plotted very loosely throughout the like a chapter breakdown, trying to figure out, okay, by the midpoint, this should happen. By the end, this is going to happen. But then I left a lot open, and I enjoyed that actually because as I was writing, things would happen. And it is like they say, it's just kind of they take characters take on a life of their own.
Right.
And you're writing, you're like, I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. So a lot changed in the writing process. And I had to also go back and fix things because things would change as I was writing. And then things at the beginning didn't make sense at the end. So I had to bring it all together.
Is there a character? I mean, this might be an obvious question because obviously you yourself went from LA to Maine to a small town, which we see in the same thing happens with Audrey in the book. But is there a character that you identify strongly with? What I mean, I imagine it would be Audrey.
Yeah, it's probably Audrey, although I think she's a lot more fearless than I am and probably a little bit funnier, a little bit sharper. But definitely in thinking about what my experience was like moving from LA to a small town, not only in Maine, but a small town in general, and all the things I had to learn, I put a lot of that into Audrey's journey. Although I will say, in Audrey's case, the townspeople aren't so nice to her and they treat her like an outsider, whereas here
Right.
I was welcomed by everyone. I'll make that clear.
Good.
But I liked this idea, in Maine, there's this saying that you're from away if you weren't born in Maine. So I wanted to use that idea to make Audrey feel like an outsider so that when she was trying to solve the murder, she had more obstacles to overcome. She had to win
Yeah.
people over to her side. So it definitely put a lot of those kind of feelings I had when I moved to Maine and things I had to learn too. Like I had to buy a whole new wardrobe for the winters and the fall, and I had to learn that okay, you got to go and talk to your neighbors and meet them and take some kind of baked goods over to them when you knock on their door, and all of these things that growing up in cities I never really had to learn. And I also wanted to fuse in the idea that you think about moving to a small town as being kind of a chance to be anonymous or sort of go into hiding or just doing your own thing, being very quiet. But actually, everyone in small towns know who everyone else is, and they know your business. So you're actually less anonymous in a small town than you are in a big city. But that ends up being a really nice thing because everybody looks out for each other. So I know if I get snowed in here at my house, my neighbor will come and help me. And that didn't happen as much for me living in cities.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you had so much fun writing it, but was there something particular about it that was really challenging?
I think just all of the different like grammar, language. I noticed in my first draft, I was doing a lot of the, show, don't tell. I mean, tell, don't show. What you're not supposed to do.
Right.
Um, and also a lot of adverbs. And if you read Stephen King's book on writing, he hates adverbs and thinks you should strip them out. So my first draft was like, she said quietly, she said loudly,
Oh, I
she
see.
looked over there. It was just very descriptive. And I think I kind of had to do that to just get it straight in my mind of everyone's emotional journey at that point. But I ended up just going back and having to strip a lot of that out. And the challenge for me in writing fiction was to be very simple because you think you have to be quite quite expressive in your language or use a large vocabulary, but actually what works is keeping it very, very simple. And often all you need is he said, she said, or even the bigger challenge after that is not to have any he said, she said at all and have the reader know exactly who's speaking when. So it's all those stuff I'm working on, but that was also fun.
Have you always been? I mean, I know you're obviously huge film buff and read a lot about film, but have you always been someone to also read a lot of novels in your life?
Yeah, yeah. Can't remember a time in my life where I didn't have a book that I was reading a fiction book. I'm usually reading one fiction book, one non-fiction book, and listening to an audiobook all at the same time. And I actually feel that kind of panic when one book's running out and I don't have another one lined up ready to go.
Right.
I'm a huge reader. I'm not, on social media and I'm not much of a tech person. So I take my book everywhere I go. And if I'm waiting at the doctor's office or getting my hair done, then I'm reading. Anytime I can, I read over breakfast, I read over lunch. Reading alongside watching movies is really my joy in life and always has been. I remember at school we did a charity readathon, and that was always my favorite weekend. It was like, how many books can you read in a weekend? I just loved it. I loved it
Okay.
so much. So yeah, love reading fiction as well as nonfiction.
Like that's something we have in common for sure. I'm sure a lot of film people are both are readers as well.
Yeah, I think we love being in stories, don't we?
Yeah.
We love being by ourselves,
Yeah,
watching or
exactly.
consuming stories,
Yeah,
being
exactly.
quiet.
What is there something that you're particularly curious to see how people respond to in the book?
Yeah, I'm curious about all the classic film references I have in there because I know that the TCM fans will enjoy it. But I've even heard from my local doctor here who was Googling cozy mysteries to read that my book popped up and she was like, oh, I think that's my patient. She doesn't know anything about classic film and doesn't know anything about me being on TCM. So I'm curious about whether that will translate. I'm also curious about the TCM audience, about them being open to fiction. As I said, this is the first time
Yeah.
TCM are going to be releasing fiction, and there's more to come. So it's not just going to be me. But I wonder if that will take a bit of education from people realizing that it's not a non-fiction book, that it is fiction. I am hopeful that there's a big crossover between TCM fans and cozy mystery fans. I think there is. But I'm looking forward to hearing how people enjoy it.
Well, there's even well, stop me if I'm giving it away, but there's even a Gilmore Girls reference in there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a Gilmore Girls reference, there's a rare television reference, everything else is
Yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually watching that show now, so that
Oh,
it
I love
as
it.
soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I know where that's from. Which I might have
Yes.
missed it otherwise, but
Yeah, I love Gilmore Girls is another inspiration for sure, just in the cozy nature of it and the
yeah,
small town and the quirky characters and the interpersonal relationships.
right, yeah, no, I could see that. How much did your knowledge of movies, shape the way you approach the scenes, the characters, or the pacing? Did movies really inspire the story as well, or was it mostly from literature?
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly movies. As I was writing, I was picturing everything as a movie scene. So not writing as I would if it was in a script, but writing as if I was watching the adaptation of the movie, or I just was picturing it. And I know that pretty much everything I wrote, especially some of the more action scenes, are just kind of like mashups of everything I've seen in movies, sort of chucked together. But I found that having such a language for movies and appetite for films, and having watched countless movies in my life, that helped me with writing because I felt like I know where this needs to go, or I know what could be exciting if it happened next. Yeah, I was picturing it all like a movie.
And I mean, the main character is, I mean, she's so like extremely driven. She's a risk taker. She's has integrity. She's so brave. She faces these challenges, like severe challenges head on, and it's so
Mhm.
strong.
Yeah.
Were those qualities that you mapped out before writing it, or did she just organically come out that way?
Yeah, I mapped it out beforehand, and just thinking of how an amateur sleuth could work in this world. I think when it comes to mystery writing, or especially with cozy mysteries, you either have an amateur sleuth who is driven and is someone that can go head into these terrible situations without flinching, or you have like a detective or a police character. And I don't know enough about police work and procedurals in order to write a detective character. So I wanted to write an amateur sleuth, and the amateur sleuth has to really be the driver of the action, and she's the one who has to really solve the case and follow the clues.
Right.
So I planned out her characteristics beforehand, her background. I did a whole brainstorming session of figuring out her age and where she was born and her relationship with her mom and all of that stuff. Um, and then throughout the book, I found she had to naturally become more confident in order to step into these situations.
And it's interesting that she doesn't just leave it to the police.
Yeah, that's
You
another
know?
thing that you have to kind of figure out with a cozy mystery is like, how can she, go around the police?
Yeah.
Sometimes working with them, sometimes ignoring them in a way that could make sense, but also in a way that, yeah, puts her in the driver's seat. That was a tricky thing to figure out.
Yeah, and is that because she wanted to figure it out on her own because she was afraid of losing her theater,
Yeah.
or was
Yeah,
that the main motivation?
the theater is kind of the impetus for her to get involved and not wanting to lose or ruin her grandma's legacy with if the theater was closed down because of the crime or because of the mortgage or various obstacles she faces. Yeah, that was really the driver for her as a character. But again, that's something that you have to figure out is like why is this important to the sleuth? Like, why does she want to solve it and not just leave it to the police?
Yeah. And yeah, I found that interesting because a couple of times I wondered, like, oh, why is she not leaving it to the police? But
Yeah,
without giving too much away, there's a lot at personally at stake for her
exactly,
to want to take it
exactly.
on.
And so you have to kind of, in this cozy mystery world, as opposed to like a noir mystery or sort of a darker detective-based mystery, um, there's some like sort of futzing with what legally could happen and what couldn't happen. You want it to feel realistic, but you also want to have the story of her solving the crime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I thought it worked. I thought it worked very well.
It's
Were
good.
there any specific movies that influenced the book? I mean, I know that there's references, and in the movie they're watching Suspicion out at early in the film. But was there any
Mhm.
specific films that influenced the story?
Yeah, Murder, She Said was a big one, and I mentioned that in the book. That is, an Agatha Christie adaptation with Miss Marple as the amateur sleuth, played by Margaret Rutherford in the versions that I like. There's four of them in total, and I liked that she is this kind of nosy sleuth who gets involved, and she's very smart, and she doesn't take no for an answer, and goes around the police and figures this out for herself. I also watched a lot of other mysteries. I was playing with the idea of a locked door mystery, and so I looked at the Kennel murder case, which is a Philo Vance mystery, which involves a locked door and someone dying behind a locked door. And then, other Agatha Christie adaptations like And Then There Were None. That's a really good one about, a group of suspects who are thrust together. So I kind of looked at aspects from a lot of different classic mysteries. The Thin Man I reference as well. I wanted a bit of a Thin Man moment where, she's putting it together and explaining things out loud and talking it through. So a lot of them, but I would say Murder, She Said, and Miss Marple mysteries were the biggest ones.
And if the book were adapted into a screenplay, into a feature
Yeah.
film, who do you see playing Audrey?
Yeah. Well, I thought about her as looking like Greta Gerwig, although I do describe her as being quite tall, and I don't. Greta is quite tall, actually. I have met her before, so I would imagine her like a Greta Gerwig in her 30s kind of vibe. Yeah, and or like an Anya Taylor-Joy, although she might be a little too like otherworldly looking, But I also imagined it like if it was going to be adapted into a film, where would it fit? And I always imagined as Hallmark, like a Hallmark
Oh yeah,
mystery.
right,
Yeah, I feel like that could fit perfectly. So
right,
I'd also be happy with one of their stars in
right.
the film.
Yeah, true. I kept when I was reading, I kept seeing you as the character, so I couldn't even
Yeah,
just because of
I know.
the
So I tried to make her blonde as like, it's not me.
right, right, the LA to small town connection
Definitely.
kept putting that out there
Definitely.
for me. And so now we're going to be seeing two follow-ups of it, not to put pressure on you to keep writing, but
Yes, well,
is
I
that the
have written
plan?
number two
Oh wow,
already,
okay.
and that is now going through the whole rewrite process.
Oh wow, okay.
And hopefully there'll be more after that. I'm sure they're going to wait and see how this first one does before committing to more. But I have lots of ideas for murders,
Oh,
so
okay.
I could keep going for a long time.
Oh wow, okay. All right. And the exact due date is do we know the exact due date? But October is what I
Yeah,
have there.
October 6th.
Oh, 6th. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
October 6th, just before the cruise. So if anyone's going on the TCM Classic cruise, you'll be able to buy it there and get it signed.
Oh, fantastic. And if people want to get the book, where do you recommend they go once it comes out?
Yeah, if you go to aliciamalone.com, I have all the info about all my books there, and you can pre-order Murder at the Movies now, and it gives you a choice of whether you want to use a big bookseller like Amazon or if you want to support an independent bookseller, you can make your choice there.
Is that a new website?
It's a new website.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I
No, I
thought
didn't
it could
know.
be good to have somewhere for people to go. And I'm going to also start a little newsletter so that I can keep people in the loop of what's coming up
Oh, great.
now that I'm not on social media. But yeah, you can go to aliciamalone.com for more.
Great, fantastic. Well, I'll leave the link to your website in the description box down
Thank
below.
you.
Highly recommend Murder at the Movies. A movie. I love the cover as well. I'll put a
Yes.
screenshot of it when I edit the video. But who designed the cover? It's such a wonderful cover.
Yeah, we had an illustrator do the cover, and that was a really fun process to figure out because a lot of these cozy mysteries, they do use a cartoonish kind of cover, and we wanted something that felt elevated but still felt like it was in that genre and had the feeling of fall to
Oh
it
yeah,
without
for
being
sure.
too on the nose, with no too many pumpkins and things, just like a touch of fall. You have Audrey there, you have her cat.
Yeah,
Dexter
yeah,
in the
I
frame
love
as
it.
well, and the theater. So I loved that process. It was a lot of back and forth, but it was really fun.
Great. Yeah, it really captured my attention, the cover alone. So I'm
I'm
sure
glad.
people will love it. So yeah, get October 6th. You can pre-order it now, I imagine,
Yeah.
as well.
Hmm.
October 6th, the book will be out. And once again, the link to Alicia's website will be in the description box below. I won't ask your social media handles because I know you're not on.
Yeah, I am on Letterboxd again. So
Oh,
if
right,
you
that's
are on
right.
Letterboxd, you can follow me there. I think it's just Alicia Malone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're all the hosts are on there now, I believe. TCM hosts is
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we all decided to get on there and luckily I still had my account, which I hadn't used in like 5 years,
Oh, wow.
6 years, but I reactivated it. So if you are interested to see what I'm watching, it also gives you a little sneak peek at the TCM programming because I'm often watching things ahead of writing my scripts for upcoming
Oh,
themes and
oh, I
spotlights.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
Just lastly, one question coming to me was there anything you were watching while writing the book that was helpful?
Yeah, I did put on a lot of Gilmore Girls in the background. But all the mysteries I mentioned, I tried to watch. I also love the Knives Out movies.
Oh
So I
yeah.
was watching that and watching the Thursday Murder Club adaptation. I love the Thursday Murder Club books by Richard Osman. And he inspired me because he's a TV host turned writer. So,
Ah,
but he's like very, very funny in his books. So I had tried to kind of fill my brain in terms of what I was reading and what I was watching with cozy mysteries to help infuse, that flavor into what I was writing.
great. Fantastic. Well, again, October 6th, the book will be out. So, Alicia, thanks again. Thanks for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. That's three times in the last year, three
Yeah, well,
deck book and
thank you for reading it. Maybe for number two, I'll be back.
yeah, no, for sure. For sure. No, I look forward to it. So thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And those of you watching at home, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the Movies logo. You will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left. In just a second, just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes. It is absolutely free to subscribe. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you are interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, I'd really appreciate the support. Please go to patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the Movies for full details. Thank you again, everyone, for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.